Well, welcome to Extra Point on Southwestern Montana News. Our program today is brought to you by Dennis Scherg of Edward Jones, 82 Coffee Company, Susan McRae Accounting, and Dream Motors. And today, back in the studio, Beaverhead County High School softball coach Alyssa Creighton. Alyssa, congratulations. Last time we were here about 2 months ago, we were talking about you embarking on this brand new adventure, and that part one of the adventure is over with, and the Lady Beavs finished with a 13-6 record, best in program history.
Yep. Yeah, it's I knew that we were going to have a good season. I hoped we would have a good season and just have a lot of faith in these kids, and they've played really well this year, and finishing 13-6. I think the most winning season we've had previously was 12 wins in a season, and that was before they brought back the Divisional Tournament. So we are 13 wins and have the Divisional Tournament this weekend. So we'll be adding a few more wins to that column.
Okay, and then we talked about one season over with, 13-6, and now you're basically, what I'm getting is you're 0-0 as you enter the tournament Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. That's a mentality I've always had as an athlete and as a coach is, you go into postseason and anything can happen. So everybody's 0-0. Any team shows up ready to play, and they have an opportunity to move on to state. And so we're looking to go in strong, and with our conference record finishing 8-2, that gave us the number 2 seed in the conference. So we do have that first round bye tomorrow, Friday, and so it's pretty exciting.
Well, and you ended the regular season at that, I'm not sure exactly what you called it, but it was kind of a round robin, no, not a round robin, but just a 4-game tournament where you played a couple of best teams in the state, and then I'm not sure, I forget who your other 2 opponents were in that, but you went into that 4-game series without one of your better players, so this gave you a chance to kind of play with your lineup a little bit.
Yeah. We I call it a jamboree, but it was the Laverne combo in Butte. It's not a tournament necessarily. You just have 4 non-conference games, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. And on Friday, we were missing Emily Brevig, our lone senior, and our center fielder. She's our leader there in the outfield, so she wasn't there. And we took on Billings Central and Polson. And Billings Central is unbeaten right now, and Polson finished number 2 in the Northwest. And so 2 huge games, and I thought the girls actually played really well. We did lose both of those games, but, I thought that you don't play a full 7-inning game because there's time limits on those. No new inning after an hour and 20 minutes, so we didn't play a complete game. And, with our girls' habit of coming back late in games, you never know what could have happened, So
I'm thinking that maybe, hopefully not for us people with weak cardiac situations, that your kids could very easily become the cardiac kids of softball.
Yeah, I keep telling them they're giving me heart attacks. With 3 different walk-off wins this season so far, they're going to kill me sooner or later, but it'll be a good thing.
Okay. Well, and getting back to the regular season, we had talked about, Frenchtown as being one of the premier powers in the state. You went to Frenchtown and didn't have fun. I guess the colloquial term is you got thumped pretty good. In Frenchtown. Nothing worked at all. And then you came back here a few weeks later, hosted Frenchtown, and then that's when one of your kids came up with one of their cardiac performances.
Yeah, so we lost to Frenchtown in Frenchtown 10-0, and I chalk it up to just playing intimidated, playing on their heels. They've got all their signs in the outfield that talk about how many state championships they've won, and they're a good team, they're a good program, they've got good kids, they're very well coached, and so I think it just got in our heads a little bit. And so we played pretty good defense. I mean, we held them to 2 runs was the most they had gotten in an inning up until I think the wheels fell off in the 5th or 6th inning. But we held them and we just couldn't hit. We could not hit against Frenchtown in that game. And so I think, as the game went on, the girls got a little bit discouraged, and then we ended up losing 10-0. But then turn around and come back when Frenchtown comes to Dillon. The girls played really well. Obviously, they were firing on all cylinders. We came out hitting the ball really well right out of the gate. And we did have one bad inning, where we made some mistakes and just made some bad decisions that weren't necessarily errors, so to speak. But we hung in there. We got out of that inning and then turned around and won, in a walk-off hit by one of our freshmen, Bailey Blake, hit a nice single, and Kylie Conan scored our game-winning run. And so it's the second time we've ever beat Frenchtown, I believe, in program history. But just a huge win, because with that secured us outright second place in the conference. Had we have lost that game, we would have tied with Hamilton for second place, and I believe we would have lost the tiebreaker based on points scored. And so that win is what's setting us up in a really good way for divisionals this weekend.
And confidence builder.
Huge confidence builder. And that's our goal, was to be playing our best softball by the end of the year. And, we had some games where, we weren't hitting well, but our defense was great, or we were hitting the ball really well, but we just could not stop making mistakes. And so as the season has gone on, putting those both sides of the game together in one game, it really came together when we beat Havre in Frenchtown during their jamboree. We beat Havre in a walk-off hit there by one, and it all came together in that game. Havre also a very good team, great pitcher, and we just, it all came together. We played really, really well.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk more Beaver softball. We'll get a little bit more specific with divisionals, and we'll do it after this on Extra Point on Southwestern Montana News.
Summer is right around the corner. You know what that means. It's four-wheeler and side-by-side weather. If your trusty pulling vehicle is no longer that trusty, you need to stop into Dream Motors. We have a large selection of pre-owned trucks that can pull all your summer toys to the mountains. That's Dream Motors, located at 445 North Montana Street here in Dillon.
Back to Extra Point, and in the studio today, Alyssa Creighton. A couple times I've come really close to saying Alyssa Matter, but you've been Creighton longer than you were Matter,
yes,
I guess.
I have.
Yeah. Well, you came here many moons ago as bright-eyed from Havre, Montana, to play basketball for the Bulldogs, and basically haven't left. So you'll always be Alyssa Matter Creighton as far as I'm concerned. So if I ever slip,
that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
I won't correct you.
Okay. So back to softball now. Divisional tourney. I posted on my notes, where is divisional tourney, but you had mentioned earlier that it's in Polson.
Yes.
So what's the weather forecast for Polson this weekend?
It actually doesn't look too bad. I think the entire state of Montana is supposed to be windy tomorrow, and a little bit of rain, I think, tomorrow, and then Saturday it's supposed to be a little bit nicer. So it actually looks perfect. Not too hot, not cold, maybe a little bit of rain, which isn't the worst thing. So should be pretty nice.
You got Flathead Lake in the background to play it behind too. So.
Yeah, sometimes the wind coming off the lake will be a little cold, but that's all right. It'll be better than some of the weather we've had here.
I was going to say, I can't remember growing up here this much wind as long as it is, but it seems it's always windy. This morning it was a little chilly wind, but then again, it doesn't make any difference when you got focus on playing softball and stuff. Now, you mentioned earlier going in as the second seeded team. Do you have a first round bye, or do you play first?
We have a first round bye. Okay. Yep. So the first and second team in the north and the first and second team from the south both get first round byes.
So Frenchtown is first seed?
Frenchtown number 1 in the south, and we are number 2, and then Columbia Falls is number 1 in the north, and Polson is number 2.
Okay, so do you have I'm guessing that your second round opponent will be the winner of a game.
Yep, so our second round game will be the winner of Ronan and Butte Central. So they'll take on, Ronan was 3rd, Butte Central was 6th. So we'll play the winner of that game at 5 o'clock.
And you've played, I know you've played and defeated Butte Central. Have you tangled with Ronan yet?
We have not played Ronan yet. We've watched them play. We've made a point to watch them play, but we have not gone against them this year.
So anything special about Ronan in just the brief scouting report you've done?
They're tough kids. You know, they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're too much different than Dillon. You know, you don't want to count them out. They've got some good hitters. They do have a pretty fast pitcher. I don't think she's faster than anything we've seen so far this year. And so I really like the matchup against Ronan, but we can't look past them by any means. They're a good team. They can hit the ball well, and we'll need to do the same thing.
Well, how many teams will advance from divisionals to state?
So they'll take the top 6 to state.
And where will state be?
State is in Billings this year.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to get back to the pitching a little bit. There's all kinds of fun pitches in softball. I'm kind of a softball nerd, watching it in the last few years and stuff like that. And the drop ball is fascinating to me, how it does it. Your pitchers, what's in their arsenal of pitches? And what would be their best, or are they versatile that they're good at everything?
Right. So, I mean, pitching is always really interesting, especially in the high school level. You'll get even sometimes parents or coaches of 10U girls that say that their pitchers have 6 different pitches, that's great, but if they're not accurate, it doesn't matter. And so really what we focus on mostly with our pitchers is actually location before we focus on pitch style. So, is it up and in or up and out? Is it low in the zone, and different things like that. And so both Addison and Timber, who are our number 1 and number 2 pitchers, are fantastic at hitting their spots. And that's normally what we'll call. And then, of course, they both have a changeup, which is like an off-speed pitch, which is really important to throw off the batter. And, Addison being a junior, she's got a few additional pitches in her arsenal that she just really has worked on this year. So she does have a pretty good, she has a rise ball and a drop ball and a nice curve ball, or a drop curve. So, don't throw those very often. You really got to work on getting ahead in the count, and then you can throw one of those pitches. So you don't throw them very often in a game like you might see, in a college game. But if she can get ahead, an 0-2 count or a 1-2 count against a batter, then, we can throw some of those pitches to try and get them swinging at something they don't want to swing at.
Well, and the interesting thing that I've learned about softball pitchers, you see some girls that will pitch 3 games in a row, and they'll have 3 complete games in a row. And the question is, well, what about their arm? Is their arm tired? Whatever. And watching a game the other day, one of the commentators made a very good explanation. He said the motion of a softball pitcher is a lot different than the motion of a hardball pitcher. A baseball pitcher, it doesn't create as much torque and everything else on the girl's arm and shoulder than the other pitch does.
Right. Yeah, and that's, the rotation of the shoulder in fast pitch is, and the elbow, they're not using their elbow necessarily like a baseball pitcher is. And so I think a lot of the injuries with baseball, and I don't know baseball because I don't have boys, so I don't know it as well, but, you see a lot of elbow injuries with boys that get overthrown in games with pitching and different things like that. You don't see that with softball. There's no pitch count rules in softball. Number of innings or number of pitches, there's no limit. And so I think there probably needs to be some sort of guideline for it, because you definitely will have coaches that will overpitch their pitchers. 3 games in a row is a lot. The more in shape the girl is with her arm, the more she can throw, but you can definitely overpitch your pitchers. Whether it leads to injury or just soreness, is probably the difference. And, so we don't want to go in and just throw one pitcher all weekend. And I think that's going to be a big factor when you get to divisionals and you get to state, is who has more pitching on their bench, who can throw more pitches than the other team.
What about, is there regulation on the pitcher wearing the mask?
Yes. So in high school, it is required for pitchers, first base, and third base. because of the distance, it's a 60-foot base path, and so first base, third base, they have more potential to take a line drive, and you're playing so much closer than baseball does, and so they are required in those positions. They're not required in college, but they are required in high school.
And let's review. We talked about a little bit the first time you were here. The substitution rules they're a little different. So Addie pitches, you take her out, but you take her out of the game. But then she can come in later, playing like third base. Then can she come back and pitch again?
Yeah. So the substitutions are not necessarily positions. It's more, you have if you have 9 girls batting. So if we can, as long as those same 9 girls are out on the field, you can move them around anywhere. If you remove them from the batting order, so basically they go sit on the bench and you put someone else in the game, that's considered a substitution, because then they're not batting or playing defense. And then if Addison or whoever that starter is, if they re-enter the game, they can do that. But then if they leave the game a second time, they're now done and they cannot go back in the game.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we typically don't, especially with our pitchers, because we don't want to get ourselves in a position. So we do a lot of defensive rotations. So, when Timber comes in, Timber typically plays left field. When she's pitching, we put Addison at third and put Bridget in left field. So there's some rotations, but there's no substitutions happening because we have the same girls.
So what about you put a substitute runner in? Same thing applies.
So if you actually have a pinch runner for someone that's other than the pitcher and catcher, that's a substitution. But for pitchers and catchers, you can use a courtesy runner. That is not a substitution.
Okay. So off the technical side of things a little bit. Off the technical side, you're going to have to review this a little bit, because talking to one of your assistant coaches, Lindsay Branch, she talked about some kind of special treat that happens in the dugout or after something happens. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so we try our best to keep things, a little bit lighthearted, because softball is a long game, obviously, and sometimes mistakes happen. It's a game of failure for sure. And so what we started doing earlier in the season is we have, we did do one big bucket of candy, and it sure didn't last long, but we bring candy, whether it's Swedish Fish or Nerd Clusters or Sour Patch Kids, and if the girl gets a good hit, or they get a strikeout, like if they strike someone out or they make a good play on defense, when they come in, we give them a piece of candy. And Lindsay she has fun. She's like, you've earned a Sour Patch Kid, you've earned a Swedish Fish, or whatever it is. And it just kind of keeps things fun and lighthearted during a game, because they're working hard. So we try and just add a little bit of fun to it.
So do you have any superstition items that you carry with you, no matter whether you're playing at home or on the road? Is there something that travels with the team?
No, we don't. I'm not a very superstitious person. I think maybe a few of my coaches are a little bit superstitious, but I am not. So I don't have anything specifically that I carry, but they're rubbing off on me a little bit, because in Butte, I was wearing my visor the one day, and I'm like, I haven't worn this yet this year. I need to take this thing off. What was I thinking? What am I doing? But no, nothing specifically that is superstitious for me. So.
Okay. One thing that I was going to ask you when you were here back for the first time, but I'm going to ask you now, is you guys are going to be hosting a youth softball camp this summer.
We're hoping to, yeah. Okay. I don't have any dates set yet. Hopefully sometime in July we'd like to do like a 2-day camp for kids in Dillon, kind of like the Beaver shooting camp. I know the Cubs are hosting one. We're kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that they're doing, and we'd like to have this be the first year of many years of, Little Beaver softball camp. So,
okay. Well,
yeah, more details to come.
Film at 11, as they say.
Yeah.
As they say. Okay, well, Alyssa, I want to thank you for coming in and visiting. Good luck in Polson. Good luck against either Ronan or Butte Central. We don't know who you're going to play yet, but good luck. Great season. Once again, congratulations on a great season.
Thanks.
On season number 1 of your rookie year. You've got season number 2 coming up on your rookie year.
If they'll have me back.
Okay. Well, thanks, Alyssa.
Yeah,
Alyssa
thank
Creighton, head coach of the Beavers softball program. And thanks for watching Extra Point on Southwestern Montana News. Today our program brought to you by Dennis Scherg, Edward Jones, 82 Coffee Company, Susan McCrae Accounting, and Dream Motors. We'll see you next time on Extra Point.